Hello, my name is Don Bailey. I'm a Native American from the Hoopa Valley tribe in Northern California. Um, I'm a former teacher at Chemawa Indian School in Salem, uh, the oldest federal boarding school that's still in existence. And so I derive a lot of my experience and what I'm going to show you from my experience at the school with the different nations that were represented. So my procedure is I take black and white vintage archival photographs, black and white, and I recontextualize them and put them in a different historical perspective to kind of get rid of the static and often documentary type photograph that one would see in an archival photograph. And so in giving that, it gives life, and also not only that, but I can put Native Americans in a perspective that they are here today, with us today, and have lives today, but also turning things around. When I recontextualize things, I use contemporary imagery also to invite the viewer in, and ask, why is this in here, and what does it have to do with 2021? And so I have fun doing that. And so we'll begin with the one at the end here, the big one. This one is called Dinner with the Absaroka. It's a large oil painting. The original photograph were these three Crow natives sitting at a table, and they were eating or having dinner or lunch, but they had china, fine china, and they're in this palatial room, and the sign said, or the caption read, "These are what prominent leaders of Indian nations probably received because they didn't want to be disrupted, or they didn't want the leaders to complain too much, because obviously at that time natives were being put on reservations." Okay, so what I did was recontextualize this, and kind of had fun with it. And at the same time, it's kind of a satirical type of painting. I've added Matisse, Rauschenberg turkey, TC cannon, and these plates here that are bird. Crow, by the way, the definition of crow means bird people. Some of the definition would go big beak bird people. And there's like, when you see Absaroka, and that's probably not the right pronunciation of it, by the way. There are 4 or 5 different spellings of that. So unless you speak Crow language, which there's no way that I'm even close, you wouldn't know how to pronounce it. And I've had students who speak their language Crow, and it's really a hard language, to understand. So what I've done in this painting, coming back to it, I've kind of thrown out the idea that, and put a reservation dog in there, by the way. Reservation dogs are like all over the reservations, even today. They really don't belong to anybody. They belong to where there's food. So that's their home. But anyway, I kind of wanted to make a statement, tongue-in-cheek, about, the holiday that we have at the end of the month, Thanksgiving, which it's one of the misunderstood holidays, I think, that we have, especially for Native Americans, and the story behind it. And I just think it's funny. 2021, I think it's funny by now. Native Americans surely don't take it seriously, but it's one of those myths that people grow up on, and this is what happened to pilgrims, and and Jamestown and all these things. So anyway, so I'm kind of having fun, and it's tongue in cheek. So it's meant to be this way. And also I put General Custer here, and there's a print by T.C. Cannon, and it says Zero Hero, and so when you look at it, yeah. And so let's move down to this one here. This is called Candelaria. She's from Sonora, Mexico, and Tiburon Island. And this is a black and white photo taken around, I would say, 1900. And just like Janice says, I also have symbols in my paintings. So if you look on the top, those crosses there are really not crosses. Those are directions, 4 directions, north, south, east, west. So that's what that's for. And the color that you see here, the ochres and the yellows, that kind of represents the desert and the environment that she lived in. And so this type of painting, the portraiture, I'm not making so much as a narrative as I'm giving kind of life through my own color and expressionist color to the photo that was there, which was pretty static and more documentary, if anything. So this one here is more or less where I worked. This is a boarding school situation. You have 3 young girls out of class, probably around 1910, maybe later. Singer sewing machine, but they're sewing the flag, which was I put in there, by the way. The original photograph wasn't. They didn't have a flag, and the flag certainly, if there was a flag there, I'm sure it would have been red, white, and blue. But it was a black and white photograph. And then you have the matron checking on, like, what are you girls doing? And so the first thing I want to explain about this is it's a boarding school class. It's what they call the domestic arts class, teaching these young girls a trade, if you will. Nothing about their culture, nothing about their heritage. This is something that the Bureau of Indian Affairs said, we want to assimilate these native children, and we want them to more or less lose their culture. And so they have to live the way everybody else does. And so in order to do that, it was more like a vocational training thing at the time. And it continued until actually 1945. And then so what I've done with this at the same time, I've kind of made fun of everything and put everything in the 21st century. If you look on the top left, on the corner, you'll see a picture of Albert Einstein and a young kid. And he's at the chalkboard, and he's doing simple math. And that's kind of a statement on, obviously these young girls aren't being taught what they should have been taught. They're doing rudimentary things, vocational. And so I put that in there. And also the flag is one of my symbols also. The flag can be taken 2 ways. From patriotism, very patriotic, or it can be adversarial. So depending on the viewer, they make up their own narrative. And that's what my paintings are about primarily, is I can put these things out there, and then the viewer can more or less make up their own narrative about things. Yes, and then the top right here, you have like a dream catcher, and you have actually photographs. It's a collage of perhaps maybe these girls' relatives that are back home on the reservation, because these girls maybe were taken away from their families, which occurred a lot, and they were put in boarding schools. And so I put that as a reference up here. And then so what I've been kind of enlightened for the viewer again is to make it 21st century. Behind the girl on the left is Andy Warhol print. That's the background. Also, she has Chuck Taylor tennis shoes on, so people will notice that. And again, you have the wallpaper in the back, not crosses, but 4 directions. So in my experience teaching at Chemawa Indian School for those many years, I've met so many students with so many stories of their parents and grandparents that who went to the school and had to put up with the trials and tribulations of being taken away from their home and put into a boarding school where everything was assimilation. These are probably the 2 most important narratives that I have. You know, and right here you have a painting. He's called Chopped Up, and he's like Candelaria. It's more of a play on contemporary, using my color as an expressionist. So there's no big narrative there, except for if you look in the colors that I use, more or less to say that Native Americans are still here today. And I think that more or less covers of what I'm trying to do here. I will point out one more painting that I think kind of caps everything. And this one's called Satellites in Airplanes. And it's a fun one. It's a traditional Indian man, but he's surrounded by airplanes. So it's just kind of making a statement about can a traditional man also be interested in aviation, 21st century technology? And of course he can. So that, you know, people, if they find that incongruity in that, shouldn't. So I'm just saying, again, Native Americans are here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
You bet.